All right, so I'm sitting here and I have time to do one of two things: get ready for work or make a video. I chose make a video. Getting ready for work doesn't improve anything. I'm still going to be at work. I'm still going to be exhausted, burnt out, angry, sad, depressed, and even ask myself all day long, what am I doing here? But that's the reality for most young people is that they're going to show up at McDonald's and they're going to put forth the minimum amount of effort into their appearance. Minimum effort, minimum wage. That's not just about work ethic anymore. It's about what you're willing to do at work. I currently work with workers who show up without personal hygiene, show up looking like they spent the whole night playing video games, and they show up in a way in which you just look at them and it's like, what other thing would you show up at looking like a haggard piece of crap? Well, all I have to do is look in the mirror. I try to go to bed early. I try to get up and do something productive, but most of the time I'm leaving for work at the exact moment when I have no time to get to work, no leftover time. And this is starting to trend among Gen Z girls who are pale skin, purple lips, and they are not looking to look healthy anymore. They're trying to look as depressed as humanly possible. And this is something I see around me at work every single day. People are giving up on themselves. There's no money, there's no hope, there's no change in our society. Nothing is improving. And I'm talking about the only thing that matters to me is more money. I don't care about the corporation. I don't care about the bosses. I don't care about my coworkers. I come to work for one reason alone, and that is money. There's no money there. Why am I there? Because in all of human history, money has been the driving factor for every single person that exposes themselves to the biohazard, which is work. No one wants to work anymore. No one wants to try anymore. And this trend of girls not even bothering to take care of themselves anymore, men with the poor personal hygiene, men showing up at work without brushing their teeth, changing their clothes, taking a shower, changing their shoes, or even bothering to do anything other than, oh, I got hired. I'm just going to keep coming here like a slob. That's what I've seen over the past 5 years. The hope, the joy has been completely removed from life. These people show up at work like it doesn't matter. Fire me is something I hear across the board from all of my coworkers. Fire me today. And you're just like, oh, good Lord, what's wrong with that guy? And it's like it's simple. You're not paying them enough to care. And when people don't care, they just show up at work and they go through the routine. You're getting minimal amount of effort. Because when a person doesn't care anymore, it shows in their physical appearance, in their attitude, with the trend, with trends in women showing that purple lips, pale skin, and looking healthy doesn't matter to them. We used to live in a society where women cared, where women went out of their way to make certain that they looked very attractive in public. But if it's trending right now not to care, that means this whole effing society is in a flaming dumpster mode. All right, let's get into today's monologue. Once upon a time, looking tired was a beauty crime. Dark circles meant you were lazy, pale skin meant you were sick, and smudge eyeliner meant you'd been crying in the bathroom. Now, those same flaws are the hottest thing on TikTok, wrapped up in the moody, smudged eyes glory of the tired girl trend. It's the look that says, yes, I'm exhausted, and yes, I paid $40 for this eyeshadow to make sure you know that I look like beep. When your entire society is trending around looking disgusting, poor, unhealthy, unwilling, and not interested in playing your game, you have a big problem, society. You America, you corporate America, have a big, big effing problem right now. These are your workers. They don't give an F about you, corporate America. And what they're telling you right now is they're raising their little middle Gen Z fingers at you and telling you this is what you can get from us. And I've noticed it throughout my entire tenure at McDonald's, my full 4 years. I've noticed it in every single one of them. They just don't care. They show up at work. They do the minimal amount of work. They don't want to learn anything. They don't care about being promoted. They don't care about careers. They don't care about you. You look at them, you tell them to do something, and what do? They get on their cell phones. I mean, I don't know how many places I've seen where cell phones are actually banned in the workplace. You can't even bring it into the building because they know if you have a Gen Z and a cell phone, 99% of it's going to be spent desk scrolling on that phone or staring out a window. I literally had to close the blinds on a Gen Z because they kept going over and looking out the window. And that's all they wanted to do is look outside because they didn't want to be present. They didn't care about anything having to do with the corporation. And I had to do this repeatedly and over the years. Because if there's one thing that they don't care about, it's their work lives. And corporate America is noticing that this generation is more interested in what's going on outside of work. They have no qualms with making sure that you as an employer understand that they're checked out. From the moment you hire them at $16 an hour, they're not interested. They're not learning. They're not paying attention. They are distracted. They are the ADHD generation. They all have it. They can't pay attention to anything longer than 60 seconds. In fact, I was watching the Lincoln Project yesterday, and they were mentioning that shorts on YouTube, TikTok, or Reels on Instagram are a serious health concern for this country. There's a reason why China doesn't allow TikTok to run in its country. TikTok might as well be a weapon against the West because Westerners are completely mentally checked out. These kids don't read books, they don't pay attention, they're not great learners. They're not interested in reality. They're interested in constantly changing their reality to match their mood. So this tired girl trending everywhere, this should be of deep concern to anyone that has to come into contact with Gen Z. Because let me tell you, they're little pieces of crap. And my every encounter with them has been the same. They are not interested in anything other than quick hookups, quick learning, and quick entertainment. Talking point number one. For decades, beauty culture treated dark circles, pale skin, and tired eyes as flaws to cover up. The tired girl trend flips that script, turning under eye shadow, smudge liner, and washed out tones into deliberate style choices. A rebellion against the always look fresh rule. That's kind of what I grew up with. I mean, I would shower 2 to 3 times a day, depending on the day. If I went to the gym, I would shower. Went to work, I'd shower. I would shower before work. It was constant maintenance of your face and your overall freshness of your body. You know, I've known many people throughout the years who kept deodorant in their desk at work, but I've noticed that hygiene among young people has definitely taken a turn for the worse. In fact, my friend who's a Gen Z, sometimes she'll hop into my car, and sometimes she'll hop into my car and I'll take a smell, and I can tell she hasn't taken a shower in a couple days. So it's out of my car and into the shower. You're not getting into my car stinky. We are not going to do anything while I can smell your armpits. That's not the way this works. I'm not going to let her be lazy because if it were up to her, she wouldn't shower. She doesn't care. Her clothes are often inappropriate, which I have to remind her of when we go out in public, that she's not allowed to have obvious parts of her body poking out, and I don't want to be able to see the outline of that certain thing down there. So we're going to go in for a clothes change, and we're going to go in there for a hygiene check. I have to do that regularly with her. And I've noticed this with a lot of my younger friends is that you have to point it out to them because they don't care. For the ones that don't work, they're like, why should I shower? I don't have a job. I'm like, you're going to shower because of the single purpose of I don't want to have to smell your dirty feet, your armpits, and your bad breath. We're going to get you cleaned up before we go out in public. And corporate America feels the same way. If it were up to corporate America, at the front door, there'd be a guy like me holding a power hose, and every Gen Z that tried to climb through the door to get into work would get sprayed down. From the top of their head down to the middle of their toes, we would spray them down, powder them up, and then let them go inside. So they're not walking around with stink lines around their entire body. And there's one thing that I've noticed about these people. They've learned to accept the funk that's between their toes. And they don't care. You don't like it, you have to accept them the way that they are. That's the way that Gen Z is. Oh, you don't like it? You have to accept me because we're an inclusive society. I say no. All right, closing monologue. The tired girl aesthetic isn't just makeup. It's a love letter to our collective burnout. A wink to everyone who's tired to keep faking perfection. It takes the exhaustion we've been told to hide and make it the centerpiece, turning survival mode into a runway walk. Because of the world's going to keep draining us dry, we might as well look effortlessly and ironic while it happens. Well, you may think this, Gen Z, but it's not allowed. You can't show up at work stinking, not changing your clothes, and pretending you don't care about the way that you look, especially the women. The men we've come to accept in the technology industry as that's the way that they are. But for women, it will never be acceptable for you to show up at work smelling and looking like you just rolled out of bed, or even worse, out of a dumpster.